remembering what they did for their country. In the spirit of remembering, I would like to take the opportunity this year to commemorate those who served and died 100 years ago when the United States entered the First Great War, the supposed war to end all wars. European nations, among others, had been at war since 1914, sustaining millions of casualties by the time the United States entered the war in 1917. The U.S. had been reluctant to enter the war that it perceived to be a European conflict, but we could no longer stand by when Americans were killed with the sinking of several of our merchant ships. Thus, our military joined the Allies and prepared for combat on World War I's Western Front. U.S. entry into World War I marked a critical juncture in the history of the Wisconsin National Guard, as 2017 also marks the centennial of the formation of my division, the famed 32nd Division, the Red Arrow Division, named so after serving in France during the Great War. Made up of National Guard soldiers from Wisconsin and Michigan, the Red Arrow earned its moniker by piercing every German line it encountered. The 32nd's patch symbolizes a red arrow piercing an enemy line on a military map, and is still worn by the men and women of the Wisconsin National Guard's 32nd Infantry Brigade combat team. The 32nd earned a reputation so fierce that the French awarded the unit the Croix de Guerre, or Cross of War, with palm, and referred to the soldiers of the division as Les Terribles, or the Terrible, for their tenacity in combat. All told, 4 infantry regiments, 3 field artillery regiments, and 3 machine gun battalions received the Croix de Guerre, representing the only National Guard units to receive the honor during the war. But the 32nd's well-earned accolades in the First World War did not come without a significant cost. The division was at the forefront of the Army's main effort in France, where they fought in 4 major and bloody campaigns, including Alsace, the Aisne-Marne, Oise, and the Meuse-Argonne. They were the first Allied division to break through the vaunted Hindenburg Line, march into Germany, and eventually become part of the occupation force. The division continued fighting until the final moments before the armistice in November 1918. Over the course of the war, the 32nd suffered more than 13,000 casualties, of which more than 2,600 were killed in action or died of their wounds. So numerous were these losses that in certain units, there was almost complete turnover of the officers within the span of a month. The world had never seen such casualties on such a mass scale before, and on this Memorial Day, we must pause and reflect on the human cost of war. It is easy to become desensitized to the human suffering when speaking of such vast numbers of casualties. Consider the words of Captain Paul Schmidt, Company C of 32nd Division's 127th Infantry Regiment. He described the scene the morning after intense shelling during the Aisne-Marne campaign. It was a terrible sight which the following dawn unfolded to us. The ground was strewn with dead bodies of the men of the 2nd Battalion, grim evidence of the terrific fire which they had to face several hours on the preceding day. The woods were also filled with German dead, but war benumbs the senses, and sights of death lose their terror. This was only a forerunner of what we were to see later on. We must never forget that the countless dead, dying, and wounded described that day were fathers, sons, brothers, just as we must never forget the thousands of Americans who gave their lives defending their country in wars before and after the war to end all wars. Of course, the sad reality of World War I is that the world found itself embroiled in another war, even greater than that, just 20 years later, when World War II began. But war never changes. The bloodshed that Schmidt described in his memoirs from World War I is a stark reminder of the suffering and sheer carnage of all wars. From the Revolutionary War that cost so many their lives fighting for our independence, to the recent battlefields of Iraq and Afghanistan, let us never forget the lessons or the costs of war, that ultimately it is the soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, and Coast Guardsman who pays the price of war and blood. If history has taught us anything, sadly, it is that there will always be war or conflict in the world. As service members, we accept that, train, and prepare for it. Ultimately, we will be always ready, always there when our nation calls us to arms. However, on this Memorial Day, I ask that we all reflect on the steep cost of war. I ask that we always keep at the forefront of our thoughts those that have made the ultimate sacrifice so that we may live in peace and sleep soundly under the blanket of freedom their sacrifice has provided. For their sleep is eternal. I hope so also is their peace. They were individuals with hopes, with dreams, with aspirations, with families. They were our brothers and sisters in arms who have fallen on the battlefield. Every one of them had an individual story we must never forget. And while we mourn the losses of the thousands of Americans who have given their lives in places like the muddy trenches of France or the jungles of the South Pacific or Vietnam, Memorial Day is also a day to give thanks to God that such men and women lived. It is up to us to carry on their memory, to take stock of their sacrifices, not just on Memorial Day, but every day, and remain forever grateful that throughout history, as a free republic, there have been men and women willing to lay down their lives to protect our way of life and advance the ideals of liberty around the globe. Ultimately, we owe our life, our security, our prosperity, our freedoms to these brave men and women who put service before self, who recognize that what they did in the service of their country would serve generations of Americans to come. These are truly extraordinary people, those serving, our veterans, and especially our fallen, that have worn the cloth of our nation's uniform. They deserve our undying gratitude on this day and every day. Among those brave men and women, more than 24,000 Wisconsinites have died in our nation's wars, in battlefields of the Civil War, in the trenches of the Western Front, Normandy, Guadalcanal, North Africa, Korea, Vietnam, the deserts of Iraq, and the mountains of Afghanistan. Wisconsin's sons and daughters have shed their blood to preserve this great nation. Every generation of Americans has answered the call, and as a currently serving member of the Wisconsin National Guard and the 32nd Brigade, I can proudly say that this generation is no different. The National Guard is the primary combat reserve of the Army and Air Force, and the first military responder here in the homeland. Since the terror attacks of September 11, 2001, almost every Wisconsin National Guard unit has deployed overseas to a combat theater, and 10 Wisconsin National Guard soldiers have lost their lives in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. We mourn their loss every day, with 118 other Wisconsin service members killed in combat and the thousands who went before them in the Persian Gulf War, Vietnam, Korea, all the way back to the days of the Continental Army. It is up to us to remember their names, their stories, their dreams, their aspirations. Most importantly, it is up to us as civilians, veterans, and service members to continue building a United States worthy of their sacrifice. We must never take for granted the gift that our brave fallen have given to preserve this great nation. Just as every generation before us, it is our responsibility to uphold the America that is a beacon of hope for the free world, an America that is worth laying down their lives to defend. And while we do not look forward to adding names to the rolls of our fallen, we must never shy away from protecting this great land from tyrants, terrorists, or those who wish to see it fail. For just as in the past, it was the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen of past generations who secured American independence and freedom, it will be like-minded men and women of future generations who secure it for our children and their posterity. Memorial Day is not a day to celebrate, it's a day to commemorate. To commemorate, reflect, and honor the men and women who died in the service of this great country. It's not about the barbecues, blowout sales, or beer. It is a solemn day of reflection and gratitude to those who can no longer enjoy the barbecues, or sales, or beer that we all take for granted every day. It's not to say we cannot or should not take time to enjoy today. Never forget why you enjoy the things you do on a day like today. Never forget that thousands of men and women died to give these liberties we enjoy. And remember that for the families and loved ones of our fallen, Memorial Day will never be a day of celebration. Never forget the cost of war. Please join me in observing a moment of silence to honor the fallen. Thank you for taking the time to honor this solemn day and for allowing me the honor of speaking. God bless you all, God bless our fallen, and God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain, for an inspiring message. The Veterans Roll Call will now be given by Malaya McCutcheon, Auxiliary Member.
K. Donald Lindsay, Leo R. Jennis, Marvin Schaefer, Douglas Mullen, Patrick S. Raimondo, Arnold Hasselwander, James Walzer, James Burt, Stanley Tate, Donald Bultman, Frank Rain Jr., John Steffen, Russell Bates, Frederick Brum, Charles Anderson, Bernard Windricks, Richard Cast, Donovan Olday, Richard Teskowski, Kent Manis, Richard Sherman, Floyd Ritchie, Ronald Swanson, and Daniel A. Noble.
A salute to our departed veterans will be given by the post firing squad, followed by taps played by Fuzzy Edwards and Jack Fitzgerald. Before closing, we would like to express our thanks to the Boy Scouts for putting up over 1,400 graveside flags, as well as the volunteers from Post 151, its auxiliary, Friends of Post 151, and the CUNA Group for their help with the Avenue of Flags. Thank you for attending the annual Avenue of Flags Memorial Day program.